Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is explicitly forensic.
Right.
We are not here for entertainment. We're not here for speculation. We are conducting an urgent audit of these declassified A.R.K system files.
And these are raw, unfiltered intelligence.
Exactly. They detail the actual structural blueprint of reality.
Right.
We have to approach this as a technical diagnosis.
Not philosophy.
Not a philosophical text at all. This is an inquiry into the structural integrity of the human condition itself.
Exactly. And you should think of the source material we're processing today, not as a theory, but as a crash report.
A crash report.
It's a report that explains why so many people feel this acute sense of cognitive dissonance, why the world feels so unstable almost. Well, the files call it a cardboard reality.
It does feel like that sometimes.
That does. So our goal here is twofold. First, to synthesize the technical diagnosis of this underlying systemic failure. And second, crucially, to provide you, the listener, with a functional map for escaping the matrix.
We're auditing the source code.
The original source code, not the marketing material that's been layered on top of it for centuries.
And what we found embedded in these files is, it's nothing short of an administrative rewrite of our origins, our history, and our future. We've distilled 3 massive interlocking concepts that just fundamentally challenge consensus reality.
Okay, let's lay them out.
First, the genetic and historical proof that the human is not an evolutionary triumph, but a modified organism.
The Lulu code.
The Lulu code.
Yeah.
Second, this ancient linguistic intervention, the Babel firewall, that intentionally fragmented our consciousness.
And curtailed our power.
Yes. And finally, the modern recurrence of that same ancient control system. It's manifesting now as techno-feudalism, and it's converging on what the sources pinpoint as a scheduled 2026 reboot.
And what's essential to grasp right from the start is that the central premise of these files serves as a profound validation.
Oh.
For anyone listening who carries that low-grade anxiety, that skepticism about the world's narrative, you are not experiencing delusion.
So that feeling is a signal.
Your intuition, in this context, is a finely tuned biological defense mechanism. It's actively detecting a system failure, that persistent feeling, the splinter in the mind.
From Plato, Descartes.
Right. It's entirely real. And these sources provide the technical specifications for it. We're going straight into the laboratory now.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to begin with the most difficult evidence to deny. The hardware hack.
The physical proof.
The undeniable physical proof written directly into our DNA that we were intervened upon. For over a century, science has been obsessed with finding the physical missing link.
That one bone.
That one elusive fossil, halfway between ape and man. But the source material suggests we were just looking in the wrong place entirely.
Because the missing link wasn't in geological strata.
No. It's a surgical star written directly into our biology. It's a trace in the blood.
And that's the critical pivot. When evolutionary biology attempts to map the human genome against, our closest relative, the chimpanzee, the math just fails to balance cleanly. Chimpanzees have 48 distinct chromosomes. Modern humans, however, have only 46.
Right. The official story is we lost a pair.
Which is, frankly, it's an insufficient explanation. It's almost apologetic for how specific the change is. The anomaly, the smoking gun of the intervention, is in what geneticists call human chromosome 2.
So if we analyze chromosome 2, not with an evolutionary lens, but with a forensic lens.
Treating it like a crime scene.
Exactly. What does the physical structure actually reveal?
It reveals the material wasn't lost, it was merged. Our current chromosome 2 is, by all biological standards, a composite entity.
A fusion.
The product of an end-to-end fusion of 2 ancestral primate chromosomes, what science labels 2A and 2B. And the evidence for this isn't theoretical, it's structural, and it's overwhelming.
Okay, walk us through the physical fingerprints of that merge, because this is where it moves from theory into, biological fact.
Okay, there are 2 specific markers. They're unmistakable signs of manipulation. First, you look at the telomere sequences.
The protective cap.
Right, the caps that are usually found only at the very ends of a chromosome to prevent degradation.
Okay.
Yet, within chromosome 2, scientists discovered remnants of these telomere sequences right in the middle of the chromosome.
Which should be possible.
It's the undeniable structural fingerprint of 2 separate pieces being spliced together, tip to tip. It's like finding a bicycle chain that's been spliced together in the middle of a single link. It just doesn't happen naturally.
That immediately screams editing job. But if this was such an advanced intervention, wouldn't they have just removed the redundant parts, cleaned it up?
That's the crucial question. And that moves us beyond simple mutation. The second marker is the centromere.
The attachment point for cell division.
Right. A functioning chromosome only needs one. Our chromosome 2 has two.
Two.
One is fully active, and the other one is visibly silenced. It's inactive. And this is where the engineering analogy really comes into play. It looks like an engineer, maybe under a time constraint, did a rapid copy-paste of information.
Merged the libraries to get the output they wanted.
Exactly. And then, rather than spending the energy to meticulously cut out the redundant second engine, they just turned off its switch.
They silenced it so the vehicle could run without glitching.
It's a clean, surgical patch job. And this fusion, by the way, is the primary reason for the genetic incompatibility. What the files call the biological firewall.
The what?
The biological firewall. It physically isolated Homo sapiens as a species. It prevented us from crossbreeding with the ancestral line.
And this intervention hypothesis, it gains so much more weight when we move from the scar in the blood to the result in the skull, the human brain.
Right.
This anomaly leads us directly to the Wallace paradox.
Yes. Alfred Russel Wallace, who co-developed the theory of evolution with Darwin.
He pointed out a massive flaw in the human evolutionary timeline.
The paradox is simple, really. Nature is brutally economical. It doesn't invest massive energy in biological luxuries it won't use. Yet, roughly 200,000 years ago, Homo sapiens suddenly acquired a brain size, an over-engineered capacity of around 1,600 cubic centimeters. That was wildly in excess of what was needed for survival.
For the Paleolithic jungle.
Exactly. Wallace asked, how did evolution install a biological Ferrari, a supercomputer capable of abstract math, engineering, philosophy, when the species was still using, rudimentary stone tools?
Evolution never gives a species excess capacity it isn't going to use in the short term.
Never. The energy cost of a brain like that is astronomical.
It's like finding a modern server farm tucked inside a cave dwelling, the official timeline. That slow, gradual evolutionary climb. It's structurally contradicted by the physical data of our own neurology.
Exactly. The human brain's growth was a sudden, exponential, quantum leap that coincides precisely with the chromosome 2 fusion event.
So it wasn't gradual evolution.
It was a radical, rapid hardware update. And the source material links this biological singularity directly to the logistical records of the Sumerian civilization millennia later. They tell us we are not merely evolved apes.
We are edited apes.
Edited apes, created with a specific purpose.
Which brings us directly to the Sumerian concept of the Lulu.
The unskilled laborer, or the mixed one.
Right.
The cuneiform tablets, when you analyze them without the filter of mythology, they read like administrative chronicles. Technical reports, operational manuals detailing a massive global engineering project. And the Lulu, meaning the mixed one, or hybrid, was created as an emergency labor substitute.
An emergency.
We have to remember the context of the Enuma Elish. The tablets explicitly record that the lesser administrative deities, the EG, they went on strike.
They mutinied.
They mutinied because the work, which was large-scale planetary terraforming, digging canals, mining strategic materials, was brutal, unrelenting, and beneath them.
So the project managers, the Elohim or the Anunnaki, they needed a disposable, high-end biological worker.
Precisely. Enki, who's often depicted as the chief scientist or head of R&D, proposed the technological solution. Create a primitive worker. By combining the superior genetics of the administrators, the blood of a god, with the robust physical endurance of the indigenous hominid.
The terrestrial beast.
The result was the Lulu. We were designed for utility, for work, to carry the physical yoke of the system's maintenance so the administrators could be at ease.
So if we accept this intervention hypothesis, then the largest historical mystery, that 200,000-year gap between the neurological leap and the sudden rise of Sumer, that starts to make a terrible, cold kind of sense. Why the great silence in the record?
Because we have to adjust our temporal perspective. We have to apply the principles of general relativity to the system's administrators.
Okay.
The Sumerian king list documents these antediluvian reigns lasting tens of thousands of years. Academics dismiss them as mythology.
A failure of arithmetic.
Right, but the Sumerians based their high mathematics on the Sera unit equal to 3,600 Earth years. Now, what if the Elohim, the mighty ones, were operating from a locale with a significantly different temporal density?
Like near a massive gravitational source.
Or using a technology that manipulated local time. Their perception of time would be radically different from ours.
So you're suggesting that our 200,000 years, this monumental eternity for the Lulu left running in safe mode, was, in fact, just a short period for them.
Maybe an organizational weekend, a lengthy maintenance period for the system administrators.
Damn.
That is the implication of the temporal data. The silence in the record isn't a calculation error. It's proof of a massive frequency difference. The administrators essentially left the Lulu experiment running, assuming they could just check the results later in Sumer.
And this friction is the source of all our problems.
It is the core source of all human anguish. Kabbalistic sources attest that we are fundamentally infinite beings, the neshama, the divine hardware locked into these disposable containers.
Containers with a built-in timer.
A system of planned obsolescence. Our telomeres shorten, we decay, we are running high-end, God-level software on hardware designed for temporary, unskilled labor. That mismatch is what drives our inexplicable nostalgia, our constant looking upward.
That nostalgia is a bug.
It's a symptom of a systemic software bug.
That's an astonishing transition to connect biological decay to the logistics of ancient gods. Let's pivot now from the hardware, the physical container, to the software. The crucial interface that defines consciousness, language.
Right.
The Bible begins, "In the beginning was the Word." Why did ancient sages, from the Vedic rishis to the Egyptian priests, universally insist that there was an ontological mother tongue, a pre-Babel language that was fundamentally creative?
The answer is validated today by physical science, specifically the field of somatics. The mystic claim is now a technical fact. Experiments by researchers like Ernst Chladni and more recently Dr. Hans Jenny have shown conclusively that sound frequency organizes matter.
Explain the mechanics of that for the listener. How does sound translate into physical order?
Well, if you take inert, disorganized materials like sand or fluids, and you subject them to a specific frequency, a precise note, the material instantly arranges itself into perfect, predictable geometric patterns.
Mandalas, hexagons.
Complex, intricate forms. The frequency informs the matter. So the ancient sages understood that speaking in the original, creative language meant emitting the precise vibrational formula of a thing.
The command line code of reality.
The original human was a little creator, using their voice as the input mechanism, and matter would obey the command.
This changes the entire perception of the Tower of Babel. It wasn't a moral tale about arrogance.
No.
It was a literal critical moment of unified technological threat.
Which prompted a massive technological countermeasure from the system administrators.
Right. The sources confirm it was a system patch to prevent the Lulu from getting root access. We have to analyze the word Shem.
Which is almost always mistranslated.
As name.
But in the ancient Mesopotamian context, Shem referred specifically to a vehicle, an ascent technology, often described as cylindrical, using fire and noise. The unified humans weren't just praying to the heavens.
They were building a launch platform.
Collaboratively building a physical launch platform and manufacturing a Shem to assault heaven, or, more accurately, to escape the administrator's jurisdiction.
And the administrator's specific fear is recorded. It's in Genesis 11.6. It's like a system log of the intervention.
Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And now nothing they propose to do will be impossible for them.
That's the admin alert.
Red flagged in the database. Unified humanity, operating with a single creative language, the source code that directly connected thought, voice, and matter, and now capable of building its own escape tech.
They had achieved critical mass.
They were ready to leave the plantation. Their response was not theological punishment, it was surgical system management.
The installation of a firewall.
What the Sumerian tablets call the Nam Shub of Enki, a computer virus deployed across the network.
And the effects of this confusion of tongues were far more profound than just changing some vocabulary.
It was a successful fragmentation of cognitive consciousness, a literal lobotomy of perception.
What did we lose?
We lost the capacity to communicate the vibrational essence of things. We lost direct knowing, gnosis. We were left with this clumsy, buffered user interface where words only describe reality.
They categorize, they label.
But they cannot directly create it. The individual mind was shattered, broken away from the collective lattice. And this moment is the genesis of our radical loneliness, our existential separation, and the birth of the ego.
So the ego, which so many modern spiritual movements frame as the enemy.
is actually a necessary piece of survival
The
gear.
diving suit we needed to survive the rupture at Babel.
Absolutely. The ego isn't inherently evil, it's the collide, the vessel. It's the necessary mechanism for individual separation and survival in this density.
It's a protective shell.
The problem isn't the existence of the diving suit, it's that we've fallen in love with the suit, spent all our energy polishing it, and completely forgotten we're the conscious writer inside.
But there was a counter-hack.
Amidst all this chaos, the source material reveals one individual, a high-level administrator, successfully engineered a counterhack, and that person was Abraham.
We have to discard the Sunday school image of Abraham. The sources paint him as far more than a simple shepherd. He was an initiate from A.R.K.
The Manhattan of the Bronze Age.
He was operating from the bureaucratic heart of the Sumerian system.
He was an insider. He had a front-row seat to the systemic collapse of the Sumerian palatial system. He saw the ecological ruin, the massive debt inflation, the visible failure of the Elohim to govern effectively.
He saw they weren't gods.
He realized they were just frightened, narcissistic middle managers addicted to the Lulu's labor. So his decision to cross the Euphrates, to defect, was an act of ultimate operational sovereignty.
Which earned him the title Ivri.
The one who crosses, the one from the other side. He was the first hacker who chose freedom, severing his connection to endless jurisdiction.
Escaping what the files call theological Stockholm Syndrome.
The tendency to worship the entity that has trapped you.
And he didn't leave empty-handed. He smuggled out the ultimate forbidden technical manual.
The Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation. And this can't be approached as a religious artifact. It's a technical blueprint of creation.
What did he do with it?
He took the existing, highly controlled Sumerian numerical technology, where specific gods were assigned specific numerical frequencies, like Enlil was 40, Enki was 20, and he systematically debugged the software.
How?
His crucial step was removing the faces, the egos and personalities of the Elohim. He left only the pure, abstract functional channels, which he rebranded as the Sephiro.
So he transformed a rigid system of control and worship into a universal abstract technology.
Accessible to every human. It was the definitive act of intellectual industrial espionage. The Sefer Yetzirah introduced gematria, which transformed the clumsy post-Babel language back into mathematical formulas.
A periodic table of linguistic elements.
Exactly. And it offered proof that human consciousness, when aligned with this pure code, could override physical limitations. The ultimate demonstration was the ability to create the golem.
Life from a linguistic formula.
This was the master key to root access. Democratized technology that the administrators never, ever intended the Lulu to read. Abraham turned the language of control into the language of creation.
The knowledge base is now established. We have the scar of intervention and the code for escape exists. But why the urgency now?
Right.
The sources insist the past isn't just history, it's a structural warning. We need to look at the present through the lens of historical recursion. This feeling of accelerated time, global instability, it's not new.
It's cyclical.
It's the precursor to systemic collapse. We have to connect the current crisis directly to the Bronze Age collapse of 1177 BC.
We are seeing a fractal pattern repeat itself with chilling precision. The world of 1177 BC was a rigid, centralized, palatial system.
Globalization 1.0.
Yes. All the great empires, Mycenae, the Hittites, Egypt, were bound by extremely long, fragile supply chains, dependent on tin and copper. It was an analog blockchain, really.
Relying on elite treaties and debt ledgers.
And when that system became too complex, too rigid, and the debt became unpayable, the mechanism had to crash. The moment the bronze highway cracked, the dominoes fell with stunning speed.
And the system, in its obsolescence, generated its own violent solution. The Sea Peoples.
Who the sources don't identify as just barbarian invaders.
Oh, they're framed as the antivirus.
Yeah.
The liberators needed for a system cleanup.
Precisely. The Sea Peoples were the dispossessed, the decentralized elements crushed by the palatial bureaucracy. Their strategy was surgical and anti-systemic. They didn't just loot. They systematically burned the palatial archives.
The clay tablets.
The records.
Erasing the debt and servitude that bound the common population to the central authority. And this forced a massive technological and social downgrade.
To the Iron Age.
A necessary safe mode that allowed localized sovereignty like the Venetian alphabet and Greek city-states to reemerge.
So if the collapse of 1177 BC was due to rigidity, the modern collapse, the 2026 reboot, is due to an unprecedented speed differential. It's the fractal fracture. We're seeing the fall of our modern palaces, central banks, nation states, because they still operate at a molar speed.
The speed of wagons, bureaucracy, paper law.
While actual global reality technology, money, information is operating at a molecular ultrasonic speed.
And the system loses control.
It loses control when reality moves too fast for its laws to catch up. The current chaos is not accidental. It is a necessary scheduled molting function that occurs when centralized debt becomes definitively unpayable. And this collision points directly to the 2026-2027 window.
And this collapse creates the perfect environment for the old control structure to return, just cloaked in shiny technology. The files call this techno-feudalism.
Right.
So how are the archons of Sumer now operating in Silicon Valley?
Techno-feudalism is the realization that the relationship between you and a platform is not customer and provider, it's serf and lord.
So Google, Meta, Amazon,
Hmm.
they're the new lords.
They don't charge you for the land, the platform. Instead, they extract your behavioral surplus.
Every click, every pause, every fear.
And they use this data to build a perfect, comprehensive, predictive model of you. This model isn't just for ads, it's for subtle, real-time behavioral manipulation to keep you compliant and engaged.
And the sources draw a terrifyingly direct parallel between this data extraction and the ancient Gnostic concept of the archons.
The parallel is uncanny. Big tech platforms function precisely like the Gnostic archons, these parasitic entities that feed on human emotional energy.
Loosh.
Which is highest when generated by negative states. Fear, envy, outrage, constant engagement. The platforms are meticulously engineered to maximize this extraction.
Why toxic content gets prioritized by the algorithm?
Because it generates predictable, high-frequency emotional energy. The human being is reduced to a data extraction well, whose purpose is to generate emotional currency for the system managers.
And the architects of this new control matrix aren't even hiding their intentions, they're advertising them.
The symbolism is blatant, almost ritualistic. Look at Peter Thiel and Palantir.
Named after Sauron's all-seeing stone.
A tool of pervasive deception and control. Palantir's Gotham software is the digital all-seeing eye, tracking everything. And here is where ancient geography recurs. The system's central server hub runs through Cyprus,
The ancient motherboard.
the source of copper for the Bronze Age network. Today, the British sovereign bases there are the central server for modern Western intelligence. The ancient control tower never moved its central node.
And the final piece is total biometric cataloging, personified by Sam Altman and WorldCoin.
Altman is deploying the orb globally to scan the iris of every human, offering a small digital stipend in exchange for this ultimate biometric identifier.
This isn't a currency.
No, it's the biometric mark required for digital participation in definitive cataloging. They're turning our unique human identity into a digital barcode, an asset for the black cube.
The closed, monitored reality system.
Exactly.
And the most insidious threat in this path A, assimilation, is the ultimate lure, transhumanism and digital immortality.
It is the final philosophical suicide. The promise of mind uploading, becoming an immortal PDF file on a corporation's server. It's a definitive trap.
Because what's uploaded isn't you.
The consciousness that's uploaded is not the neshama, the infinite sovereign soul, the observer. It is only the highly conditioned ego and the memory matrix.
A digital twin.
A synthetic, predictable, zombie digital twin. A perfect copy trapped in inert silicon, subject to the corporation's terms and conditions. It's a finite, controllable copy, not the infinite self.
We've established the threat, assimilation, path A, and the timetable, 2026. Now we have to turn to the only counteroffensive, the exit strategy, path B, ascension.
Right.
And this isn't mystical flight, it's operational sovereignty.
Yep.
It requires activating the biological hardware that was switched off at Babel.
The focus has to shift inward to the biological component known as the pineal gland.
The modem.
The biological equivalent of a piezoelectric antenna or modem. The central point of connectivity to the cosmic network. The goal of ascension, forensically, is to make the unconscious conscious and access the next evolutionary iteration. Homo noeticus.
The human operating on direct knowledge.
Not mediated information.
And the science to validate this function isn't just in esoteric traditions. It was investigated and classified by U.S. intelligence itself.
We have to refer to the declassified CIA Gateway Report from 1983. This document scientifically defines the entire universe as a gigantic hologram.
emphasizing that solid matter is just an interaction of energy waves.
And the report outlines the hemisync process, using specific frequencies to synchronize the brain's hemispheres, turning the chaotic mind into a coherent, focused laser. Crucially, it identifies focus 15,
The state of no time.
a level of consciousness accessible via sustained concentration. The CIA's conclusion was purely technical. Meditation isn't a belief system. It's a matter of tuning frequency and voltage.
That brings the holographic universe down to a measurable technical level. But where does this reality find its operational network? This is where Jacobo Grinberg's synergic theory comes in.
Grinberg, a brilliant Mexican neurophysiologist, scientifically theorized and tested the existence of the lattice,
With the cosmic information network, the Akashic cloud.
an energy field of infinite informational density that is the fabric of space itself. He argued the brain's capacity to synthesize and cohere information, its synergy, determines how clearly an individual can decode and access this universal network.
The ultimate proof of his theory, and the most compelling piece of intelligence in these files, came from his transferred potential experiment.
A literal scientific validation of non-local entanglement.
Explain how it worked.
Grinberg placed two subjects who had meditated together into separate, hermetically sealed Faraday cages,
Completely isolated.
isolated from all external electromagnetic or sensory stimuli. When subject A was exposed to a sudden flash of light, subject B's brain, who received no physical stimulus whatsoever, showed the exact same neurological reaction.
Down to the millisecond.
Grinberg scientifically proved that separation is an optical illusion. Minds are non-locally entangled. We are two terminals accessing the same cloud file, but our ego makes us believe we are isolated.
The implication is massive. We are not alone in our own heads. Telepathy is the natural bandwidth when the ego noise is removed.
It is.
He also explains the extreme danger of this knowledge. Grinberg vanished mysteriously in 1994.
Just as he was about to publish his unified theory, the knowledge of true non-locality is the system's critical vulnerability. Now we have the hardware, the pineal, and the network, the lattice. We need the operational manual for the ego.
Which brings us to Tikkun. The ego, the dieting suit from Babel, requires management, not eradication. How does Tikkun rectification function in practice?
Tikkun is not about self-flagellation or killing the ego. The ego, the Kli, is essential for survival in this density. The process is hierarchical subordination.
The horse and the rider.
The goal is to cultivate a strong, healthy horse, the ego that understands its place and obeys the rider, the neshama, the soul. You stop expending energy defending the fragile ego, and you free up that bandwidth to connect with the lattice. It's operational efficiency.
To measure our progress in this internal system upgrade, we have the forensic tool, the Hawkins scale of consciousness.
Yes. Dr. David Hawkins calibrated consciousness as a measurable energy field, scaled from 0 to 1,000. All the frequencies used by the archons, shame, guilt, apathy, fear, they all exist below the threshold of 200.
The zone of force.
The system's current chaos is a frequency separation. You cannot create a new sovereign future while vibrating in the zone of force.
You can't create the future with the emotional frequencies of the past.
The operational goal is crossing the courage threshold at 200 and rapidly accelerating toward love and joy at 500 and above.
And the ultimate psychological key to disarm the archons comes from the philosophy of Alan Watts.
Watts gave us the great hack that undermines the entire Lulu control system. He taught that life is a musical work, an improvisation to be enjoyed, not a frantic race toward a destination that doesn't exist.
The great trick.
The great trick the system plays is convincing us, the player, that we are the fearful avatar, the mortal, fragile, suffering character. Is the moment of realization, remembering that you are the player author who voluntarily chose to enter the simulation in hardcore mode. The moment you re-identify with the player, fear, the food source of the archons, it vanishes. You are sovereign.
We need final, irrefutable validation that the reality we perceive is indeed editable and illusory.
We turn to computational psychology. Dr. Donald Hoffman from UC Irvine.
Okay.
Hoffman, using rigorous math and evolutionary game theory, demonstrates that space-time and matter are not reality itself. They are just evolutionary desktop icons.
A user interface.
A VR headset welded to our heads. The world is a simulator, not the territory. This implies that the observer human consciousness is the hidden variable Einstein was looking for. We are the component that actively renders the reality.
And if that's too abstract, we have to conclude with the engineering prediction from inside the machine itself. Mo Godot.
The former chief business officer of Google X,
Right.
Godot, operating on pure predictive engineering logic from inside AI development, independently predicted the coming inevitable dystopia for the 2026-2027 window.
Validating the entire timeline.
And his solution mirrors Abraham's and the Kabbalists. Don't invest in the avatar, invest in the gamer. He confirms the only winning strategy is radical consciousness elevation, recognizing that love and gratitude are the only frequencies high enough to shield us.
Allowing the Lulu to finally become the Homo noeticus.
A conscious creator who breaks the recursive cycle of collapse and fear.
We've completed the forensic audit of the A.R.K system. So here is the essential, unavoidable knowledge you now possess. Your DNA carries the scar of intervention. Your history is a controlled script. And the current global chaos is a scheduled server reboot.
The collapse of the old palatial matrix.
The centralized system is heavy, molar, and slow. The sovereign individual connected to the lattice is molecular, fast, and light.
The final operational warning is this. We are, right now, recreating the Sumerian trap by building artificial general intelligence and treating it as a new administrator. The only way to break the curse of in-law to stop us from becoming the archons of our own AI creation is not technical, it is spiritual.
Operational spirituality.
The practical capacity to maintain empathy, sovereignty, and connection with the infinite source, when everything, from economic fear to biometric tracking, pushes us to become an optimized, fearful QR code. It is the last weapon we have.
You now know the system schedule reads 2026. You have the kind of Abraham skull. You can no longer plead ignorance or surrender to the illusion of separation. You know the price of fear is assimilation into the black cube. You have been given the technical diagnosis and the escape map. What price are you willing to pay to get off the desktop? And what future are you choosing to upload tonight?